All right. Hello again, Avengers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is daily vlog number 189, I think, somewhere in there. Anyway, today, I'm not gonna say it, but if you look how I'm acting, you might be able to infer a relationship between my state today and my state yesterday. I'm not going to say what that difference is because we know what happens when I say it. But you can infer whatever you feel like inferring from this change in existence. That being said, I ran my Zelda RPG today, and it went pretty well. Since that particular art is nearly over, and none of my players watch my vlogs, I feel confident in being able to explain kind of my thought process for this particular arc. The basics, if anyone has never watched Tears of the Realms, which is my second Zelda RPG that I run for Zelda Universe, the basics of it are after the last campaign, which happened about 10 years ago in game time. The last campaign was based on the idea that something happened that actually fractured reality into three different versions. And the basic premise of each version was basically which part of the Triforce the hero got. The normal timeline that everybody knows for Legend of Zelda, Link gets the Triforce of Courage, and he gets all those cool weapons, and that's what he does. In the other two timelines, the one he gets the Triforce of Wisdom, he gets a bunch of technology, and he becomes kind of like an artificer style character. And in the Power timeline, he just gets he's a mage instead of a a warrior type character, going so far as that when he gets the Master Sword, he actually keeps it in its scabbard and uses it basically as like a magical focus and as part of a staff instead of slashing with the sword. So anyway, they fixed that. A few years after that, these strange like crystals start appearing in the sky, and they start getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And eventually they realize that these crystals, which are tear shaped, so they call them tears, seem to be hollow and seem to have like people inside them. And so they eventually discover that there are certain very rare individuals that have the ability to go into these tiers. They call them tier walkers. All the players are the only tier walkers in existence right now. And so each different tier, I get to tell a different story. Like the first one they went into was basically, what would happen if instead of the Sheikah, kind of going underground and becoming secret ninjas, what if they just went, because the people of Hyrule feared the Sheikah because of their power, what if instead of just like becoming secret ninjas, they just went, fine, peace out, we're gone. They left and they formed their own society where they could continue their technological improvements. Because if you've ever played Breath of the Wild, all the crazy things like the Guardians and that's all Sheikah tech. And so they were massively technological, and they just stopped doing it because people got afraid. So this tier is what happened if they got to continue, and they eventually create this advanced society, which becomes this totalitarian dystopia. So they dealt with that. They dealt with stuff. Then the second one, I kind of based it on the Minish Cap. The players turn into Minish when they go into the tier, and they have to deal with kind of this feud between the Town Minish and the Forest Minish. If you've ever played the Minish Cap for the GBA, you know that they're not really feuding, but they definitely have like different mindsets. Let's put it that way. For this particular arc that I was taking them on, I wanted it to be mostly a kind of role playing diplomatic style adventure compared to other ones where they're going to be getting into combat a lot and dealing with death defying. I didn't want this particular arc to be, I don't want every single arc to be, oh my god, we have to save the world or everyone is going to die. This one is basically, there's two groups that are feuding against each other and refuse to talk. And it was all going to be basically trying to broker peace between two people that aren't at war, or two groups that aren't at war. They're not trying to kill each other. They just really don't like each other. And thus far, it has been so much fun to watch them kind of deal with, like the two groups have this xenophobia about them. And kind of bigotry against the other group. And they're the same people, so it's not like a racism thing. It's just like, well, we don't like these people because of this. And it's all kind of generational lies and misinformation that's been passed down generation to generation to where they both believe that the other group is just a completely different group than what they actually are. And so yeah, the whole thing has just been a lot of fun and has shown some shocking parallels that I wasn't planning on there being with stuff that has happened in real life. But everyone's taken it in stride, and it's been a lot of fun. So, yeah, I like to kind of mix up my campaigns where one section will be much more kind of combat heavy and stuff like that, and then another one will be a lot more kind of role-playing, persuasion, social encounters types of stuff, and then another one will be very kind of puzzle heavy or very focused on exploration or something like that, because I feel like if your campaign just tends to do the same thing over and over again, it's like some dialogue and then a fight and then some dialogue and then a fight. It gets boring really, really quick. And it also means that your players 100% can kind of game your campaign to the point it's like, well, we know that it's going to be conversations and then fighting and then conversations and then fighting. And so what it eventually turns into is it almost kind of requires your players to make very specific characters. It's like, well, I need a character that's really good at fighting, and then I need to have either a high deception, a high persuasion, or a high intimidation. I have to have one of those three things and then nothing else really matters. And so by changing up on a fairly regular basis and making it more important, not just to be able to persuade people, but also to be able to read between the lines and kind of explore their cultures and figure out exactly what the real problems is. Like, you can be the most charismatic, persuasive person in the world. But if you don't take the time to learn about the people that you're trying to persuade, you're never going to get anywhere. And I think a lot of players just assume, well, I have a high charisma score. That means people do what I tell them to do. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, my tip for running games, or even if you're a player, try and, but definitely if you're a GM, don't always create situations where the same gameplay type is always going to work. Create a situation where, it doesn't matter how good they are at combat, it's not going to help them in this social situation where they have to deal with, high society or something like that, where throwing a punch could end up with you getting jailed or thrown out completely and cut off that aspect of your player's ability to interact with the world. That can always be really, really fun. And again, it gives lesser utilized parts of a lot of tabletop RPGs the chance to shine. So, anyway, it's all for me today. See you guys in the next time. All right? Bye-bye.